Oh. Okay. How do we get internet?
Calling our workshop to order at 3:33 p.m. This time we'll ask the city manager for her opening remarks, as well as the staff that will make the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thank you. So we've been down this road a couple of times and have had several workshops on the aesthetics of Highway 77 commercial corridor. Not just 77, but just commercial in general. And Amanda, Ben, and myself worked on something that we felt like need to really give you some choices, make it very simple. In our meeting, we found out that the most consistent aesthetics to the commercial corridor is CRA. And so we utilized some of CRA's guidelines to kind of put together an outline of the workshop and presentation, and to give you some direction. And so we want you to see what we came up with our suggestions, and hopefully after this presentation we will be able to move forward with Amanda putting some ordinances in place, bringing them back to you. So for us, it is really giving you everything that you've been asking for and you've talked about, putting it in presentation, and then feedback from you is how you want to go, so that we will be able to write those ordinances accordingly. So I'm going to ask Ben to come up and do the first part of it with the presentation.
Good afternoon. As Vicky already mentioned, Vicky, Amanda, and I, we got together and we looked at the Highway 77 corridor to see how we can improve the architectural appearance of this corridor, to make it more pleasing, more appealing to the people that travel down the corridor, the customers that go to the different stores. And let me see if this works. This is turned on. Yes, it is on. There you go. And we realized that there are really some 6 core components, architectural elements along that corridor that can be manipulated, that can be changed in order to improve the overall appearance. Think about this like maybe as a gearbox in a car. You have, there's a lot of different sprockets in a gearbox, and if you start changing some of the sprockets, you're changing the output, the outcome of the whatever, of this gearbox. So we're here today to talk about some of these sprockets to see how, what would happen if we change some of these components. Building materials is the first one that we want to talk about. As of today, there are really no standards in place. So what you see here on the left-hand side, right here, this machine shop. This is just a basic metal type building that can be built on any commercial property in the city. Our suggestion would be to add some more architectural details to this to the code that would require the property owner to maybe use some stucco, or it would not allow the property owner to use any vinyl siding or any metal siding to improve the visibility or the appearance of this building. Next item that we looked at was the exterior colors. Here again, on any commercial building that is being proposed in the city, the property owner can use any type of color right now. So I think a few months ago, we had this example with one of the stores.
Glitter.
It was gold glitter, right?
Glitter.
And
Perfect. Never saw anything like it in my life.
we could only do something about it because this storefront is still located in the CRA, and therefore we could say something about it from a code enforcement perspective. If it was south of 17th Street, we couldn't do anything about it. So it's a question what you have in mind, what you envision over the next couple of years. If you like this bright purple, for example, or some extreme colors, or if you rather prefer some more earth tone colors, some muted pastel colors like we've been using over the last couple of years in the CRA area. Another component that we looked at is our architectural details. So right now, here again, currently the property owner can just build a box. Doesn't really have to be appealing. We can't really tell him no. He can go with a bare minimum. By asking the property owner to add a few architectural details, like an awning, maybe a frame around an existing window, maybe some sort of a roof treatment, using some stucco components on your exterior, it really enhances the appearance of the overall building. And by the way, the CRA is requiring architectural details on those sides of the building that faces the highway, or that can be seen from the highway. So they don't have to put all of the architectural details on the backside that nobody won't ever see anyway. Moving on to parking lot location. That is maybe something that would only apply for some properties that are still being developed on a green field, on a vacant piece of property. Obviously, there are only a few properties left, but historically, the developer would put all of his parking right in front of the shop, and your storefront actually kind of disappears in the distance. So as you're traveling down 77 in front of Walmart, and you look into the Walmart property, you don't even see the entrance because it's so far in the back. And one of our recommendations would be to actually move the building closer to the highway so that you can actually see the storefront. On the right side, this is an example. This is our Social Security office. This is how they approached this. They had some parking in the front and some parking in the back. Our recommendation would be to come up with a 50-50 split. So half of the required parking would be in the front, and the other half of the parking would be on the back side of the building. Signage. I think that's another interesting component. So on the left side, those are our current standards. I think when I see a picture like this, first impression tells me cheapy cheap. This is the,
Where's that one on the left?
I don't even
not
know where it
here.
is. No, it's not in
Lynn
Lincoln.
Haven. Okay.
No, this is,
Yeah.
I don't even know what they're selling, but it looks like it's keys, something about keys.
Hardware.
But it looks really cheap, and you kind of get lost in details. Current sign standards are kind of minimum. We allow up to 18 feet in height, monument signs. Our recommendation is to reduce the height of the signs and to really simplify the message. So less is more. Our goal would be to emphasize a simple, clean look to reduce the information that is actually being displayed on your frontage, on your store frontage. So because the customer won't decide to enter the store just because he reads here electrical goods, toys, and keys, that's probably not the decision maker for a customer to go into that store. The customer typically goes to that store because he or she heard about the good quality product that is being sold there, the good customer service that is being offered there. Last but not least, landscaping. I think we all agree that we do have a good landscaping system, good landscaping requirements in place. But we don't have any regulations in place how to enforce the upkeep of the landscaping. So this is a picture of our Walgreens here on 390 and 77. This is actually before Hurricane Michael. There was some landscaping in place, and obviously all of this was destroyed during Hurricane Michael. And when they came back, they just put in some little crepe myrtles and called it the day. So we don't have any muscle right now code enforcement doesn't have any tools right now in place to go back to Walgreens and say, here, this is your originally approved landscaping plan, and your goal is, or your job would be to maintain your landscaping plan over time. So in other words, whatever landscaping was put in place whenever this commercial building was constructed kind of simplifies over time. A tree may die here and there, they may pull it out for various reasons, and at the end of the day, you end up with a grassed area.
Now it's all road.
And so it's really a question, why should Amanda go through the hassle of making sure that the property owner really goes through these restrictions if we don't follow up with it? So how do we implement all of this? So we now know there are certain components where we can make some adjustments to our land development code. I guess the next step would be, if you're all in agreement to this, city staff could go back, review the land development code, and come up with suggested changes to the land development code in those areas. We would be working with the city attorney and the city manager, obviously, on these proposed changes, and then over the next couple of weeks, bring that back to the city commission, to the public for review, and then final decision. Our suggestion would be to apply these proposed new standards to all non-residential properties not located in an industrial park. So it's not just the storefront, it's also the commercial properties on Florida Avenue, not only on 77 and on 390. It's everything except the industrial park. Obviously, if something is in existence today, that will be grandfathered in, but whenever they make any changes to their commercial storefront or their commercial property frontage, they would have to apply these new rules to the overall plan.
To pastel? You mean colors
Yes.
and all that pastel?
Let's say if they decide to change their facade, if they decide to paint their building, they would have to go with a certain color scheme. Yes, ma'am.
That kind of takes away from Florida Avenue though, because like Roberts Hall and that, they just repainted all that forest green and everything.
But I think Florida
Have the
Avenue
old look.
isn't in the CRA, which this
They're
wouldn't
already
apply to
doing
the
that.
CRA.
Yes, they should already follow these rules. So muted pastel and earth tone-like colors, especially muted pastel, has a huge spectrum. You can find some blue, some red, some green tones in muted pastel. It's the question is the intensity of the paint, of the color. It's not as intense as this purple that I just showed.
Glitter gold.
It's still a pastel, but it's a
Yeah.
Blue gold. That's my favorite.
So in a nutshell, our suggested action items would be to expand the design standards, the CRA design standards to all commercial properties. This would be ordinance number 1. And then ordinance number 2 would be to update the landscaping requirements in the ULDC as well as the signage in the ULDC. Those 2 categories are not mentioned in the CRA design guidelines or design standards, and that's why we would have to have a separate ordinance in that regard.
Your landscaping ordinance, you can put all the landscaping in there you want, but you gotta have irrigation as well. So it'd be landscaping and irrigation. Irrigation is just as important as landscaping when you're gonna do landscaping, because your landscaping is gonna die if you don't have that little bit of spray or water.
Yeah.
And that's the expense in landscaping.
Commissioner, could you talk in the mic for those at home?
Just make sure we include irrigation on the landscaping, please.
You brought up a good point about like Roberts Hall, for instance. What would Roberts Hall not, according to the standards you're looking at changes, what wouldn't that conform to with Roberts Hall? Is there anything?
I don't think they would have to change anything on the current color selection they did.
Well, they're
Because
definitely
number one, they're
grandfathered.
grandfathered, but it's this green tone and this light gray, if I'm not mistaken, that they selected
Yeah,
as,
burgundy.
as a main color. That's a muted pastel. I mean, just Google muted pastel and you see the whole spectrum.
Right.
I think a pastel is light yellow, light pink, you know, all that.
It's more. It can be light blue, light red.
Gray.
It's just the intensity of the color that differs.
If you go and Google just earth tones or pastel colors or whatnot, it's going to give you 1,000 choices of different colors. So we're not really trying to limit people. I think we're just trying to limit the extreme.
Right.
That's kind of the goal here. So if it's a green, and I think we should also put a caveat in there. The look that the city of Lynn Haven is going for is like a coastal bay look, and so people can always appeal and show their designs to city staff, and if it's approved because it still has a coastal bay feel, then they can move forward with that. I don't see an issue with that at all.
Yeah.
Just because it doesn't fit our mold necessarily, they can come and say, hey, look, does this not look Florida to you? And the staff can go, yeah, it does. It does, so we'll sign off on it or whatnot. But it's just, again, it's getting rid of the glitter. It's getting rid of the hodgepodge that we see. We don't want to look like downtown Philly, along 77 where everything is just a hodgepodge, like that Frank's store that you had up there. Just trying to get some uniformity. And it'll especially pay off for people that's wanting to invest in our community. My cell phone's going off. Sorry. But people wanting to invest in our community, when they pull through here, whether it's industry over in the industrial parks, or whether it's Marina Island. Marina Island don't want to leave their area and then be in a third world country. They want something that's still going to look nice, I think, and aesthetically pleasing when they're going through Lynn Haven. So, I just see it as a win-win, just talking out loud here, but we can definitely nitpick this thing if y'all want to, or we can go broad. That's kind of whatever the consensus of the board wants to do.
And how do we apply this to businesses that have their business color, like Aldi's, for example? I don't know what their colors are, if they even have any. But how does this apply to those folks if they want to move into town?
So far, I was always able to find solutions with those corporate chains, national chains. Speaking of O'Reilly's, Grease Pro was the most recent one. They have their corporate colors. But they also have a certain selection that they typically can choose from. This is nothing special here, what we're trying to do in Lynn Haven. There are a lot of communities that have design standards, and Walmart, Publix, those corporate or international companies, they have 5-6 different sets of pre-approved architectural plans. And what they usually do is they submit plan number 1, and if the city doesn't like it, they'll send they'll ask, what would you like? And based on the response, they'll say, okay, number 4 might be more suitable for that community. It still fits our corporate image, but their corporate headquarters is still okay with that. Sherwin-Williams is another example. We just went through the approval design process with them. So it's nothing unusual,
Yeah.
and so far we have always been able to find some solutions.
I think a good example of what you're getting at is the Dollar General that's on Baldwin. I don't know if you've seen that.
Perfect example.
But it doesn't look like your regular Dollar General. You know which one I'm talking about?
It doesn't have the bright yellow sign.
No. Well, it does, but the rest of the exterior looked a lot different than a regular Dollar General that you see. So he's right. There's companies that got different options for areas
Awesome.
that have standards like that.
And it's a nice looking Dollar General.
It
It's a
is.
very
The normal
nice.
one, you know.
And this is only going to apply to new buildings or anything that,
Any proposed changes? So whatever's in place today is grandfathered in. That's at least what we're proposing. Anything new would have to follow these design guidelines, or anything that if a property owner wants to renovate something, those renovation plans would have to follow the new design guidelines.
Do you mean if they have to pull a building permit? Because if someone just wants to paint a building, we're not going to know that because they don't need a permit.
Excellent point. How do we enforce this? How do we know if somebody paints a store overnight or on the weekends? They don't really need to pull a permit for this. It doesn't happen every weekend, but I think the system that we have in place with the CRA, whenever a permit is being pulled, that we would have to review it is probably the most feasible approach. Yes.
But the paint one, the paint colour is going to be a hard one to enforce because they could be just painting it without one permit.
Yeah.
I see that as the exception rather than the rule, though. Don't you guys? I mean, in other words, I just don't see in Lynn Haven people being sneaky enough to go in the middle of the night to paint the stuff. I don't.
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Well, I just said it's not common. I know it could happen.
I don't think it's sneaky. I think what happens sometimes is
Fryers out behind my restaurant.
if someone owns a building, you know, like Dr. Bullard used to own that Crawdads building, and they rent it out. They have tenants that have businesses in there, or even if it's sold, we don't always know that new tenants have gone in there. We don't know that it's been sold to someone else, that a new business is going in there, or we don't know that new tenants are going in there, and they may not have to pull any permits to do anything to the inside. But they may think, you know, they're going to want to change the look of the outside to reflect their business. So it's not that they do it sneakily, they just don't, they don't need a permit to paint a building.
Right.
Could it be possible, I guess, like, for example, if a business sells to another business, they would need to come and get a business license for their new business, and this could possibly be part of the packet process, you know,
Absolutely.
part of that packet to say, you know, if you're getting a new business, contact us, or these are the standards that we have for renovating, remodeling your building when they're getting a new business. I do understand the part that, if a current owner paints their building, it may be hard for us to know that they've done that. Now, the other part is that whenever people get their business license or renew their business license, as we update this, we could make that an insert as they get their new business license, so they'll know these are the new standards that we have for businesses, so that, hey, if you do upgrade your building or update your building, renovate it, let us know. Inform us so we can talk to you about the details of what we need aesthetically for your new upgrade. So might be a way for us to communicate with the old owners as well as the new businesses that have come to our city as well.
I think it's also helpful to have an economic development director on staff that makes sure that there's a good connection between the business community and the city. So that's something definitely helpful to spread the news or to let people know, hey, if you're getting ready to renovate here, make sure that you look at the design standards or the color selection that you would have to adhere to.
One of the easiest ways that we talked about is the way we communicate to our businesses that are already here. And I think that we have to take on a stronger measure of communicating with them. This is something Ben and I talked about, and maybe every quarter or twice a year sending out updates about any codes that have been updated, any other ordinances, new ordinances that are in place that may affect them in some form or fashion. And that's just a matter of us getting the list of all the businesses located here in the city of Lynn Haven and sending out that letter from to them just to update them on those things. And also, the suggestion that the mayor had, I think you will get a lot of those things resolved just that way. So that's actually on one of our goals, is to send out correspondence at least twice a year to our businesses about the city and different things that are happening within the city that will possibly affect them.
It's not just so that we keep our minds in the right direction. None of this is to be oppressive, you know what I mean, to people, to the citizens or anything else. Again, I'm a firm believer in that if you're proud of something, you're going to want it to be the nicest it can. If you're proud of your vehicle, you're going to keep it washed. You're proud of your house and your yard and stuff, you're going to keep it mowed and cleaned and things like that. And it's the same with our city. I want people to be proud of driving through the city of Lynn Haven, and I'm hoping people will get behind it with the murals that we're doing, with the revitalization ordinances that we're going to have here, the new signage that we've got through the CRA. I mean, there's a lot of positive changes happening, and again, I hope just the citizenry can get behind all of it and say, you know what, I'm for this too. Overall, it's better for all of us, but again, it's not to be oppressive. I want everybody to understand that as well.
Yes,
We're not looking to be hard on people building what they want to build. So
I think that's an excellent point, and I do want to point out that, let's say the City Commission decides to approve these two ordinances tomorrow. You won't be seeing any changes, hypothetically. You won't be seeing any changes along 77 for the next couple of years, because most of the stores, they were just renovated after Hurricane Michael. But eventually, after 5 years or so, you will start to see an improvement. It's not going to happen overnight, right, on purpose. Because we don't want to create a hardship on the local businesses that are here.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, and
So
I'm
it's a-
thinking more about, you see those for sale signs for all those lots of land up 77.
Yes.
People will buy and develop those.
Yeah.
I mean, it's coming as the population expands, and I'd rather have these ordinances in place before they get over there and build something none of us like, that just doesn't fit.
Any additional questions for Mr. Janke or other city staff?
This sounds like a silly question, but I'm going to point out that same glitter building, where the glitter building is, and then right next door you have that gas station, and it's just painted white. Are we going to have anything, is there anything that can make that blend more? I mean, I realize that building's owned by the same person, I assume, that whole building. Is it not?
It's owned by the same person, yes, by the gas station owner. That owner owns the entire strip mall, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's in the CRA, so we could reach out to the store owner and see if he would be willing to change the color of the gas station.
Well, no, I'm just, I'm just pointing that out, that they look very separate and very different. The white looks terrible compared to the now beige or whatever color they painted over the glitter. But,
And that's what we're trying to eliminate, is that situation.
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly.
So would we have any recourse for people
Well,
who
he would be
own-
grandfathered in at this point.
Oh, yeah, he'd be grandfathered in.
Just if he decided to repaint it, then he would need to follow
Yeah.
the new rules that will be in place.
Okay.
Any additional?
But sometimes business owners, when you approach a business owner and you explain to him without spending a lot of money, you could really improve the appearance of your store frontage. They listen. And in this example, he decided, or he allowed one of his tenants to paint his entire storefront, that pizza place, in these pizza place colors instead of just the sign. So maybe that could be a suggestion from our end to find one base color for all 3 units there, for the gas station, the former pizza place, and the psychic reading store, and then use some storefront signage as a tool to personalize this unit, if you will.
All right. Any additional questions for Mr. Janke? All right. Any final suggestions regarding the things that we talked about, from building materials to landscaping upkeep?
You know, with the building materials, I did write a note. Let's put in, I mean, what do you guys think? I don't like red brick very much. Red brick, I don't know if that would be considered an earth tone color or not, but it just does not jive to me with what we're looking at here in the city. So could we restrict it? Now, you can have brick if it's painted in earth tone color or whatnot, but just red bricks, you know, just like we're doing away with vinyl siding and metal siding and all that, and we're just putting no red brick. You can have painted brick.
So it's a combination brick and the color red brick. So
just red brick.
The two of them. Brown brick would be okay.
If as long as it's an earth tone color, yeah.
I got you.
Like you've seen the houses in the older part of Panama City, and they're brick. Lots of them have some brick homes, but they paint them white, or they paint them gray, or they paint them whatever over the brick, and that works. But we have a big group of red brick buildings right on 77 right now, and it sticks out to me like a sore thumb.
Where are they at? Because I'm trying to figure out, where are they at?
Right there by Sakura. Those red brick apartments. Right by Sakura.
You mean
Those beautiful buildings.
Section 8 housing there on
I know what you're talking
77?
about.
Yeah, and again, I'm
You've
not.
never liked those buildings.
I never have. You're right, Commissioner Tender. I have not. But a lot of it's just because of the way. I mean, even when Miss Vicky and I went over there and met with them when they were rebuilding, I asked them. I said, "Can you not paint this? Do you not paint it white? And of course, or beige or whatever. Paint it something other than red. There's no red buildings in Lynn Haven, red brick, pretty much other than that."
We had this conversation with the property owner after the hurricane, and I think, if I recall correctly, the owner didn't paint the brick on purpose, because then it really turns into a maintenance issue. Once you paint your brick, you're on the hook, and you have to paint that building every 5 to 10 years.
Well, instead they just patched it with a different color on half of one of the walls.
Cheap.
That looks great.
Also, they're not commercial, so we don't have requirements for residential, you know, yeah. So, but I wanted to ask you, with the brick, the building that Dr. Hargreaves is in, I think, that dentist building that's down there near that bank, that color brick, I mean, I don't know what you think, but I think that looks nice. I mean, it's personal taste, though, isn't it? But that's not red, is it? That's more brown.
Yeah, I think that's a brown color.
And that's
I'm
okay.
talking red. I mean,
He's talking
red
that
brick.
building down there.
Yeah.
He's talking red.
You're talking that apartment building.
Because I think their patch was kind of brown, because they couldn't find much of the same color bright red that they liked.
Panhandle Engineering and Brock switched buildings.
Yes.
When Brock was there, it was red brick.
Yeah.
Panhandle painted it white.
Painted it white. Yep.
Yes.
The only people that should have red all over their buildings is firemen. They get a pass because it's red. But otherwise, yeah.
So our next step is, now you kind of heard our ideas about where we feel like the commercial corridors should go. We just need some direction from the commission to say, okay, do you want us to start putting together these ordinances and then bring them back? Maybe we workshop them first to make sure that they are in compliance of what you were thinking about, talk through them, make sure we've included everything, and then we can bring it back to you. Is that?
Ben, do you mind going to the slide with the ordinances?
Is that what you guys are wanting while he's doing that?
is there a consensus from the commission to move forward with what's been presented to us and have it brought back to us for the next commission meeting?
So we're looking
Or
at
maybe
two
give us a
additional
couple of weeks to do that.
And that would just be, we would just be a first reading of the initial language, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Or we could start with a second workshop where we present a draft ordinance to the city commission, and then we could at the following meeting.
I think it'll definitely be, when we do it, it'll be in draft form, because we still will need your feedback before, I feel like, and Amanda, you can correct me, before we even do the first reading. Yes.
And we would have to, definitely do a workshop first, and we would have to take it to the planning commission before we brought it to you, because it's changing the ULDC, so they have to make a recommendation. But I think definitely prepare the ordinances and then bring them to you to look at and to do a workshop on first. But I will be incorporating the CRA design requirements, so that it shouldn't, because it shouldn't take too long to do that, to prepare that and bring that back to you.
Yeah, because I was going to say also hurricane season's coming up, so in my mind, let's try to have it together before late summer when hurricanes really amp up. If we have damage, in other words, then we'll have those ordinances in place for rebuild.
I think we can have the workshop next month. I mean, either the first meeting, I'm not sure, but definitely by the second meeting next month. And then I could plan on taking it to the Planning Commission in July. We aren't going to have a regular scheduled meeting in July because that's the day that you've all given the city off as a holiday, the first Tuesday. But I'm planning on having if we had something for the agenda, having a special meeting, Planning Commission meeting.
Okay.
All right. Everybody good with them moving forward as what they presented us with today?
I am.
Do you need a motion or? No. Okay.
Just consensus that we can move forward with it. All right. So thank you all for working on this and bringing it back to us. And we'll see you back at 4:30. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.